When it's all technology, will creating the best human experience be the differentiator?
Do you want to be the dinosaur or the asteroid? You better innovate.
50% of workers are leveraging AI, but 70% of the companies don't know it. It's all in this episode. All right. Well, fantastic. Rob, thanks so much for being in the studio today. I'm glad I got you in the studio. You're here in Chicago. Welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. And thank you for the invite.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get started. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background, and we'll dive right in.
Sure. How far back do you want to go? Because it's pretty long.
Yeah.
Originally from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I now live in Connecticut. I got into IT a little bit later in my career. I actually was in finance for a number of years, and then realized I wasn't going to make any money in that particular area, and ended up with a job at Compact Computers. Do you remember Compact Computers?
Yes. Beige.
Beautiful devices.
Beige devices.
Those beige devices. Yeah, I remember actually it was revolutionary when we started coming out with the black, because you remember, I think it was Apple started changing colors, and then Dell came out with a black, and then all of a sudden Compact's like, we have to go black. Nobody wants beige anymore. Yeah, so I did that for a number of years, and HP acquired that organization. And what I found was that back then, people, MSPs, or this is before MSPs, we were all resellers, and we're making margin on hardware sales and giving away services for free. No recurring revenue. It was typically one-time type stuff. And then I saw this kind of change in this movement where the margin started eroding away on actual hardware. And this is where the MSP market started coming in. The managed services, the IT solution provider market started coming in and started charging for those services, setup, implementation, ongoing management, monitoring. And that's when all these newer technologies like remote monitoring management and PSA started coming out, and made a pivot and change, and worked for a Canadian company, RMM company called Level Platforms.
Yep.
Yeah, which was just the beginning of this transition away from the reseller model, the one-time revenue, to the recurring, and jumped on board. Like, it was, I saw the customers that I was working with, resellers I was working with day in, day out, were moving away from caring about hardware. And then, of course, the emergence of cloud and all that type of stuff. So took the opportunity to join, and was very fortunate to join the MSP space, the managed service provider space, kind of in the early days in that transition. Spent about 4 or 5 years there, 6 years there. Got acquired by AVG Technologies, and took that opportunity. I found a small backup company by the name of Datto. Small. At the time, it was small.
At the time, it was small.
At the time, it was very small. And, really smart guy, Austin McCord, the founder of that company. Great idea. Focused exclusively on the channel, focused exclusively on small, medium business. It was a no-brainer. Joined his organization, and 10 years later, we went IPO and all those fun things that you do. And then, left them about 3 years ago and joined Pax8, which is now Marketplace for MSPs.
Yeah. Well, fantastic. Well, let's double down on that a little bit. You mentioned just Marketplace. Mm-hmm. So what exactly does that mean on the distributor front?
We don't like to use the D word.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Okay.
Well, no, if you think about, distribution has its place, right? It's pick, pack, ship. It is a place for you to go and shop in one area for your products. We're moving away from distribution, because distribution is like really simple. It's just, you come there, you take a look at a catalog, you buy something, you move on.
Very transactional, right?
Very transactional, which is the way it's been for 100 years, right? For us, when we start looking at where the market is changing, the way people consume things, your end users, a lot of times are wanting to do their own research rather than, call you. I mean, it used to be a day where like technology was so complicated. It's like, I don't want to touch it. Just call my guy, and let them deal with it. But it's not like that anymore, because there's so much more information that's available. We all make buying decisions based on stuff that we don't even know about, right? So because of the amount of research that we could do through the web and ratings and stars and all the type of feedback that you can get, where doing your own research and being able to make a decision on a good product based on more crowd sharing information. You don't necessarily need a specialist to help you anymore. So a lot of people are making those buying decisions. The challenge is that, where can you trust that information? Is the information good? I think the pandemic accelerated that, where a lot of people got comfortable shopping online, buying stuff online. We use Amazon more than we've ever used before. I just bought a car online, and you would never buy a car without test driving it. But again, based on star ratings and being able to shop this car around globally and knowing you get a good price and how everybody felt about it, the only human I interacted with in that whole thing was the guy that came and dropped it off.
Wow.
Right. And, I think we're just as a culture, we're getting more and more used to doing those types of things. And unfortunately, technology is still a little bit more complicated and the risk is much higher. So, we want to give a place where people can come and actually get good research and stuff. And that's why moving away from just being a catalog and into more of the buyer journey, buyer experience. I think the other issue we've got is, not that it's an issue, but with the Gen Zers that are coming up.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Yeah, they're more and more comfortable with technology than previous generations are as well. The problem is, and part of the challenge with that generation is that as comfortable as they are with technology, they don't know how it works. They don't care. Your laptop's broken, your phone is broken, just go get another one, right? Rather than try to repair it, try to fix it. Your organization is built around helping people solve these problems, every day. So, that buyer journey is changing, but the end result and the need for our channel and organizations like yours are still critical. So it's now kind of putting those two together and connecting those two.
So more of a is it more self-service on?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the idea is that if you want to do your own research, you want to make your own decision, you want to see what other people are saying about different technologies. Before you would go to an event and talk to your peers. Now you can just go online and see globally what people are doing and ask for advice on avenues like Reddit and Facebook and all the different social media sites or peer groups or forums and things like that. And, if we give them a place to actually congregate and do all that together with the single focus that we're focused on SMB technology, small, medium business technology, focused exclusively around managed service providers, this is a great place to go.
Yeah, fantastic. So what's I know that you guys have been implementing a lot on the AI front. And, we talked a little bit about how you introduced MCP and to try to build more integrations with the platforms. But when you look at AI and you look at how, we'll talk a little bit about how you guys are incorporating it, but what's your take on just AI and business use and, is it a good strategy? Is it a bad strategy? What's your take?
I think we're still on the forefront of this journey, right? I think there's a couple things that we have to keep in mind. AI is not going to go away. It's going to accelerate, and it's going to accelerate quickly. But along with the good things that come out of it, there's a lot of bad things that are going to come out of it.
Yeah.
If you think back to the day when viruses, I was around when ransomware started becoming a thing back in the early cybersecurity days, and hackers would just kind of cause problems, right? It wasn't really so much, there was no way to make money at it, maybe stealing some data and stuff. But these days, they figured out how to commoditize it through Bitcoin and things like that. So, again, for every good thing that this technology is doing, it also enables the black hats, the bad guys to come and do things like that. So this is where it's going to be like necessary that we all kind of work together as a community to figure out what the right direction for this is. How is it going to be applied? How are we going to leverage and utilize this technology? What are the things that you don't know? And again, trying to create a place where you can have this knowledge, this information, a bunch of MSPs or people within the SMB channel that are actually working together on trying to solve problems and what's the right technology to do those things. But yeah, we incorporate a lot. Obviously, there's kind of twofold where we incorporate a lot of the AI into our technology to make the journey easier, better, faster, more interactive, but at the same time also enable and help people understand what technology is out there, what is available, what's safe, where is it coming from, how are other people using it, so that we can leverage it and do it faster.
Yeah. So you say easier, better, faster. We look at it as how do we drive a more, better experience, more effortless experience. And that's one of the things I've really seen is, as you mentioned, just this marketplace concept and, this whole platform that's being developed, it really builds a more effortless experience for the buyer, the consumer to make decisions, but have all the information that they need in order to make informed decisions too.
Right. And if somebody else has solved a problem that you're trying to solve, or if somebody else is selling a technology or providing a service that you haven't even thought of, or one of your customers is asking for, being able to go into a community and say, what are other people doing here? And it's funny, you mentioned MCP, the Model Context Protocol Server, which is an Anthropic product. A year ago, I mean, if you asked an audience of technicians, have they ever heard of MCP? Nobody had. You fast forward to today, and it's pretty much common language. That's incredibly fast for new technologies. I mean, Anthropic's in the news every day these days. ChatGPT, Copilot, obviously everything Microsoft is working on. There's like billions, if not trillions of dollars being invested in this space. We definitely want to take advantage of it. We definitely want to take advantage of the technology, provide better service, better support, all those types of things for our customers and your customers. Just understanding these things, seeing best practices is just going to be critical as we really go through this journey. But it's a quick journey.
Yeah, it's traveling at light speed.
Very much so. I've never seen anything like this. I don't know if you have, but I mean, you think about cloud adoption, that was 10-year journey.
10-year journey.
Yeah. Cybersecurity, probably about a 5-year journey. AI seems to be in months, not in years. So
it's crazy. With ChatGPT having 700 million users a week, that's insane.
It is insane.
It's insane how quickly things are. Once it reached the consumer, we know AI has been in technology for quite some time, but once it reached the consumer level, it's amazing how things are going at such a fast pace. I believe that you either embrace it, it's gonna run you over. You have to embrace a lot of these things that are happening because it's happening so quickly, and there's so much investment. I remember Microsoft had said that they want a Copilot on everybody's desk, by, I don't know, what was it, 2030, 2032. But, when you look at the amount of investment that's going into it, you really need to embrace it. And just seeing how you guys have even embraced it when we talked about the MCP, it's part of that kind of forward-looking vision of where you need to be. And that's ultimately what we try to do as well with our clients. Yeah.
The evolution and technology innovation is absolutely critical. And again, moving incredibly faster than we've ever seen before. And sitting back and waiting for these things to figure themselves out, I don't think that's an option anymore. I think we got to kind of really dig into it. And a lot of the partners that actually dig into the AI are having the AI conversations. Don't quite know exactly where it's all going to go or how the dust is going to settle, but at least we're having that conversation. It's critical right now.
Yeah. So you guys, there was a concept or an acronym. I think it was MIP.
Yeah.
MIP. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So, I mean, we have the managed service provider community, right?
So MSPs.
MSPs.
Yeah.
I typically, like, I don't know if you brand EMPIST as an MSP. Like, when you go to market, do you say, I'm an MSP? Because typically, your end users aren't Googling, I need an MSP, where do I go? They're looking for an IT provider or, computer guy, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, it's something that's kind of like more of an internal within our community kind of used term, but it's something that's globally understood of what it is that you're doing. You're providing products, services, and support for SMB technology. Managed intelligence, MIP, managed intelligence provider is, we kind of see AI coming in as a revenue stream. And if you think about kind of the journey of your organization, back in the day it was hardware, like we talked about, and then it became about services, and then it became about cloud, and then you added cybersecurity into that. You had compliance and assurance and all those types of things into kind of your mix of the services that we provide as the needs of these companies change. AI is going to be that piece, right? So managed intelligence is kind of a phrase that we coined to kind of define the AI part of this journey. But we do believe, and I think it's a pretty safe bet, that AI is going to touch every aspect of everything else that I just mentioned: hardware, software, cloud, all that, and cybersecurity. AI is going to impact that, change that, and integrate with all of it to the point where pretty much the only thing that we'll be doing will be AI and AI related, which is where the term kind of managed intelligence provider comes from, is just a way to define kind of a revenue, the way in which we're going to all be working and functioning within technology.
Yeah. So you being in the channel for a number of years, and you see all these products and platforms that are being introduced. There's a ton of overlap. There's overlap between different products. How would someone really, if they were to walk into the next PAX 8 event, how can they really identify and try to identify the right type of partner that they need to work with?
Yeah. It's a great question.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it just comes down to, as much as we're technologists and as much as we have a tendency to look at the speeds and feeds of technology, I think it's more about the kind of community piece of it, which is who's going to be a good partner, who's going to be there to answer the phone, who is going to be there to help us when we need that level of help and that level of support, which I think is, when you look at the organizations that kind of support this, that's a critical part of it. I think the other part of this too is the evolution. Like, there needs to be innovation. And, we have now been in this MSP industry for 20, 25 years, and a lot of the players that were there at the beginning just really haven't evolved their products. And we see this all the time with newer technologies that are coming to market from all over the world, right? It's not just even American-made technology being sold in America. Like, we're finding technologies from all over the world that are trying to, and are in this market. So, judging that, and I think trying to find a good partner that's going to provide the service that you need in order to provide the better services that you've got is going to be critical. But that innovation piece as well. What are you doing with your technology? How are you evolving it? For MSPs, they need to continue to evolve their businesses and their end users' businesses, and the only way you can do that is by making sure that the vendors and the technologies that you're selling are also evolving at that pace.
Where do you believe that MSPs are leaving the most on the table?
It's a great question. I think that there's a level. So think about the value of what an MSP is actually doing. Okay, the SMB market is incredibly massive here in the United States. I'll just use the U.S. as an example. For companies between 2 employees and 200 employees, I kind of did some data crunching not that long ago. There's about 6.2 million businesses here in the United States alone that fall into that, I would say,
2
classic,
to 200.
2 to 200. But, are registered businesses, paying taxes, paid employees, like that kind of thing. So proper SMB businesses, not just, mom and pop shops or, Etsy accounts or anything like that. These are legit businesses. And if you take a look at these businesses, generally, most of these countries their GDP is driven off of a lot of small business. I know in Canada, for example, like, small business is what's driving the economy. Here in the United States, that is starting to move more towards the SMB market than it is even enterprise. So if you take 6.2 million businesses that would need a managed service provider, arguably here in the United States, there's probably 20,000 managed service providers. That means that there's an average about 300 plus businesses per MSP that need those services. The average MSP is working with maybe 70 end user companies. So there's a good 3/4 of this market that A, hasn't found the MSP space, or B, isn't working with the MSP space, that definitely need those services. So there's massive opportunity for managed service providers in this space, but massive opportunity for the SMB market to find those MSPs. So, back to the question is, it's getting the word out. It's the education. It's finding this community of people that really understand technology, what you can do with the technology, the power of the technology. And, a lot of organizations don't necessarily have, especially in small business, they don't have in-house lawyers. They don't have in-house accountants. Why would you have in-house IT?
Yeah.
It makes absolute sense to outsource that stuff. And we see that more and more and more because, again, how quickly this landscape changes. And it's, the MSP channel is the only one that can actually pivot and learn and continue to grow. So, biggest opportunity, I think that as a community, we need to lean more into the education. We need to stay on the edge of where everything is going, even if it's not necessarily the right direction or where things will be in a year. At least we're constantly educating it, but then taking that education and passing it down to that market. So a lot of small businesses out there can understand the opportunity around how technology can make their lives, companies, revenues better.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. If you think about it, an organization, how can they properly recruit and hire for an IT role if it's the business owner who doesn't have any knowledge or expertise around that IT aspect of it? It actually ends up likely becoming a big distraction for them too, because they're spending a lot of time trying to manage personnel that they really can't drive the direction. They can't move things forward. But you're right. You don't have an in-house attorney. You don't have an in-house, CPA. Most small businesses, so just outsourcing that, because it's really expanded beyond just the guy under a desk plugging in cables.
Yes,
Right?
definitely.
It was, I got a guy. But now the spectrum of technology has grown so great where it isn't just the day-to-day operational support. It's also the cybersecurity. It's also the risk management. And being able to staff all that internally is... So if there's that much of a gap right now, you mentioned that there's that much opportunity, how are MSPs really... Are you seeing more marketing efforts? Are you seeing more sales efforts going after that market? Because you work with all these different partners at so many different levels. What are you seeing them doing?
Well, a lot of the business that is being driven is word of mouth, right? I think it's like there was some data that GTIA put out not that long ago. It said something along the lines of 75% of the business, the new business that MSPs are finding, it's all word of mouth as opposed to out there marketing and selling. Cybersecurity kind of changed everything in regards to the risk that's involved. I tend to use my wife started a business in 2018 in Connecticut. She's an interior designer, right? And really good at it. And then all of a sudden, there's more business coming in, word of mouth business. She I started hiring people and was running the business out of the house, out of my home. And I'm like, I'm tired of strangers walking through my house. It's time for you to go get a site. So now she actually has like a physical site. What does she do? Goes to Comcast and gets, sets up her own Wi-Fi, buys her own laptops over at Best Buy. And I'm like, you got to start taking this really seriously. And, she actually came home the other night because she's up to probably 5 or 6 employees now. And she's like, I'm worried about cybersecurity. And she doesn't understand it, but she's worried about it because, again, that word of mouth around her community of interior designers is, I lost all of my data. I lost all of my stuff. I'm starting from scratch again. So now she's like, what do I do? And I'm like, I've only been talking to you about managed services for 25 years. Let's go get you an MSP. So it tends to be like that situation that we're running into as far as when somebody actually needs and pulls that trigger. But yeah, it's, the marketing efforts aren't necessarily, we're not great at marketing and selling, but a lot of that is going to come through vendors, that end users calling and trying to buy, but can't necessarily serve that SMB market like MSPs can. I think a lot of the lead generation is going to come from there. A lot of that introduction of businesses that need IT support, that's where it's going to come from. But we have this awesome community that's worth billions of dollars that it's probably the worst kept secret. Yeah,
the marketing piece of it is, we market quite a bit. We try to be out there because, we believe best known beats best. So, you absolutely want to be the best as well. But if you're the best kept secret and nobody knows about you, and what we can actually do for businesses can really transform a business. And yeah, our space is, there's so much opportunity. There's, you mentioned 6.2 million businesses, untapped market. There's a lot of things that can happen.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
Very much
so when you look at let's say a business is a business, like you mentioned your wife, she has this company, she was looking for an MSP. How would someone go about evaluating, the need for an MSP or trying to differentiate one MSP over the other? You've worked with so many different MSPs. You've been on the channel side. You've been, you described your background, but you probably see the wide gamut of MSPs. Some that are more mature, some that are less mature, some that are they don't have much maturity at all. across operations. How can someone really evaluate the right type of MSP?
Again, it's kind of the same conversation that kind of goes back to, how are you finding these vendors, or if you're making these decisions on vendors. I think it's a lot of it has to do with the relationship, right? That's what it ultimately comes down to. We're dealing with an SMB market. Again, using her as an example, she's an interior designer. She knows nothing about IT, nothing about cybersecurity. Somebody that can come in and easily explain those things, make her feel more comfortable and protected, even though she doesn't quite understand what exactly it is that they're doing. I think that's the kind of the critical part about it. And to be honest, obviously being in the MSP space, and I live in a small town in Connecticut now. I mean, there's 3 MSPs alone in my town, and I know all of them because I've been working with all of them for 20 years in various different roles. I call them up and I'm like, hey, my wife needs some support, at which point they're like, okay, here's the cost. And I'm like, can we do like a friends and family deal? They're like, absolutely not, because this is business changing critical stuff. So you can't sacrifice that. So anyway, so we did go through a couple of them. She was very adverse to paying, so they ended up introducing her to a guy. It was in a shack on the side of the road who's like still trying to sell printers from the '90s in his shop, right?
Wow.
The typical computer repair guy who disappeared, wasn't returning phone calls, those kinds of things. So I think it's, it's when you get mature enough in your own business and the risks become high, this is when you really need to invest in this properly and have a great partner. And she does have that now. She's got a managed service provider that's very in tune with what she needs and able to, I don't want to say dumb down, but simplify kind of it. Like, don't worry about what's going on in the background. We've got it, that kind of thing. So
yeah. Let's change directions for a moment. So you've, I believe that people they'll forget what you say, but they'll never forget the way you make them feel.
Yeah.
And being able to elicit some emotion. You've been part of some very legendary events that I've been part of, that I've attended back in 2018, 19. I mean, different things. I mean, you're a legend in this side of things. How do you go about architecting and building and coordinating an event? Some of the events that are some of the industry largest events. The one that I attended over the summer was fantastic. The PAX 8 Beyond event. I know I'm just looking forward to the next one because of the things that you guys are doing. But a ton of planning goes into it. And I'm sure you have a very talented team, but you're directing a lot of this stuff and orchestrating it. Tell me a little bit about how you go about coordinating an event similar to like a PAX 8 Beyond, a DattoCon, things like that. Great entertainment. Talk to me a little about that.
It's a combination of a lot of different things. And a lot of it actually comes from my experience of going to events. It's leaving your office, spending time out there, going to another city. I mean, you're going to a lot of expense of flight, hotel, time away from the business, time away from your customers, and I'm sure there's no shortage of business that needs to be done. So you have to make it valuable. And I do get the opportunity to travel globally and go to a lot of different events, and a lot of times I'm generally as an attendee or a sponsor of that, looking at what could be better. I'm a big believer that there's no such thing as original thought. So everything that I've done, I've kind of stolen from other people and built in. Like, that's a really cool idea. I'm going to take that. But it's a combination of like 100 different things that I've kind of brought in. But then walking through the experience to make sure that you're getting enough value. If you're going to walk away from your business for 3 days, I got to make sure it's valuable enough that you're going to A, want to come back, B, you're going to learn something, C, something you can come back and bring to the team, to the business, to your customers to provide even better service and support. But then of course have a little bit of fun. That's also important too. Just as a community, because we all do rely on each other for support. Through all of these things. Meeting people from all over the world. When you come to something like Beyond, I've got 2,000, 3,000 people coming from all over the globe, and maybe some guy in Germany has solved a problem that you haven't, or you've solved a problem that some guy in Australia hasn't figured out, that kind of thing. Like, it's making sure that there's opportunity to network, socialize, those kinds of things. It's just important. And we're all doing the same thing, right? And I think that just helps when you're in a room full of people that speak the same language that you do, are wide awake at night trying to solve problems that you're trying to solve, that kind of stuff. So, and then just have a little bit of fun wrapped around it, but it definitely has to be valuable.
Yeah.
So that's kind of built on that. And obviously we're in the technology space. There has to be some innovation. You got to talk about kind of like what's evolving, what's changing, what's going on. I got to show you my roadmap so that you can see that, we're still innovating and moving forward so that you can provide, better services. That stuff's critical as well. And it's also an opportunity for other vendors to showcase that stuff as well. What is it that they're working on? Where is their journey going? What are some of the new innovations that they're doing? And again, that just makes it all better for the entire community. But try to build all that into a 2.5-day agenda. It's hard.
It's hard. I'm sure. I can't imagine the amount of effort. I mean, to create a memorable experience that people are talking about and looking forward to the next one. Yeah. You put on some of the best events.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
I'm looking forward to what we have in Utah.
It's going to be great. It's probably going to be definitely be the largest event that we've had, but it might be the largest event in our space of gathering of managed service providers. Got a lot of really cool stuff planned. And you're right. There's a whole team of phenomenal people that are pulling all this together. I just happen to be the guy that gets to go on stage and take credit for it. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You always acknowledge the team.
Of course.
So yeah, the team. Yeah, that's great. So if you were starting an MSP tomorrow, or obviously an MIP tomorrow, what are some of the things that you'd want to focus on from a foundational perspective?
I think that some MSPs get kind of stuck, right? And it's hard because you're surrounding yourself with and hiring people. And as much as we are in the technology innovation space, people hate change. They really do hate change. Like, I finally know this product. I know the tech support. I know who my account manager is. I know how this works. I know where to click on certain things in order to do it. If you've ever tried to flip from, say, like a Windows device to a Mac, it's like trying to learn another language and then try going back. It's even harder. So people don't like change. They like to kind of stick with what they've got. And I think the innovative part tends to get it tends to get missed, right? So, it's tough, and these days it's getting even tougher because you have to continually not only just yourself be open-minded to change and look for change and look for opportunities to change and evolve, but you also have to get your team to do that as well. I'll give you an example. I was in Amsterdam for our European event, and we had a leadership meeting. The PAX8 leadership team was there, and we brought in some MSPs to talk about what their journey is. And these are some very, very forward-thinking MSPs. And one of them, a Dutch MSP, is on this AI journey. He wants to transform his business into AI and be very, very forward, leaning, thinking, and working with his customers around AI. And he turned to his team of engineers. I think he's got 7 or 8 engineers, and said, we're going to change. And within the next 12 months, you all need to be learning AI, working with AI. Everything has to be AI driven. And had a couple of his techs quit, right? Because they weren't ready for that journey. They just didn't want to make that change. He said it was basically age, is a lot of what it comes down to. You're in your 50s, you're in your 60s, you're starting to think about retirement. You really don't want to pivot, and especially with the pivot that we're seeing that's going to happen, it's going to be significant. So do you really want to learn something new, or is this just time to check out? And they went and found other jobs with other MSPs that are not talking about advancement and AI and all these types of things. And I said to him, it's got to be really hard to lose a couple of really good long-term engineers like that. And he's like, change or die, ultimately is what it comes down to. That's we use the reference, like, do you want to be the dinosaur or do you want to be the asteroid?
Yeah.
So,
well, you have to evolve. If you don't evolve, you become stagnant, you become comfortable. And there's just, I believe, I'm a firm believer of that. You have to evolve with what's happening. And if you don't, you'll become extinct.
Yeah.
But
a lot of that comes from the team that you have around you. As a leader of your organization, you can say, I'm going in this direction, or here's what I want to do. But you've got to get your people rallied around that vision as well.
Yeah. So how would, at times you look at MSP services and, it could be highly commoditized, very transactional. How would you say that an MSP would be able to stand out in, what would be considered at times a highly commoditized market?
Well, okay, and again, this journey with AI is going to change everything.
Yeah.
Just even the way in which we bill, or make money. I mean, the way in which we are evolving this technology and the way in which we charge for this technology has to change, right? Because the per seat, per person, per device, per agent, there's going to be many different ways for us to be able to generate revenue. I've seen that a lot of MSPs that are now offering the AI type services go to per outcome, where, I'm going to come in here, I'm going to do some, productivity surveys, find some efficiencies within your business, find AI where it can help out or potentially replace individuals that are doing jobs, and whatever that equals as far as revenue savings, I want a piece of that rather than, charging for the particular project. So, I think a lot of that is changing and evolving very, very quickly as well. And I don't think anybody has the right answer. It's not as simple as here's a box and here's how much this box costs and here's how much margin I'm going to make off of this. It needs to be a little more creative and a little bit more out of the box thinking. Yeah.
The AI side of it, it's how are you seeing MSPs use the AI as part of daily operations?
Right now, I mean, obviously, it's things like Copilot, or pretty much. I think Microsoft's well on its way to making sure that Copilot's on every desktop, and everybody's leveraging and use it. I mean, I use it extensively. I'm sure you do the same thing. But then it's I just saw some data. It's something like 50% of workers in small, medium business these days are leveraging AI technology in their day-to-day work. But something like 70% of them, their companies do not know that they're leveraging it, and they're being indiscriminate with what they're actually loading into there. So, this is, again, where a lot of that training, education, those kinds of things are going to be really important, finding the right tools that are safe and actually providing good output. I not Copilot, but I was using AI the other day because I'm a Toronto Blue Jay fan, baseball.
We won't hold you. We won't hold it against you.
That's okay. We almost won the World Series last year, like this far away. And with spring training and everything like that, the off season, the players are changing out. And I said, hey, what does the lineup look like for the 2026 season right now, based on the players that they signed? And AI came back and said, great question. You're such a smart person, and thank you for asking. And then it said, Josh Donaldson was going to start at third base for the Toronto Blue Jays. And pretty sure Josh Donaldson hasn't played for the Jays in the last 10 years. So now all of a sudden I'm doing all this research going, did they re-sign Josh Donaldson? Is he back on the team? Nope. So then I said, okay. And then you go and correct it. Josh Donaldson doesn't play for the Toronto Blue Jays. It's like, oh, yeah, you're right. You're super smart and you're awesome and you're beautiful. Let me rerun this lineup. And it moved Josh Donaldson from third to second. And I'm like, I don't think Josh Donaldson's ever played second base, much less played on the. So, nothing is perfect. And this is where, the need for support and help around these things, and leveraging the right tools, and making sure the output you're getting is good and healthy and safe. Because, again, a lot of people are leveraging AI technology without their organizations knowing, without proper training, without necessarily understanding or trusting the results. What can I put in there that's going to be safe, not used publicly in other places, kind of stuff. There's a whole bunch that, a lot of value where MSPs come in and can do those kinds of things these days.
Yeah, an assessment of how AI is being used and the adoption of it. Mm-hmm. It's that shadow AI that's happening where there's people are using AI within an organization and using it for information and populating with information and prompting it with information about the company. There needs to be governance and across the organization, across IT and the organization to properly manage the risk associated with it. But there's a lot of great advantages.
Oh, way more advantages for sure.
And things, there's so many different platforms out there now. We're seeing a lot that's coming into our space from many of the channel partners that are coming into space and into our industry that are leveraging AI and trying to drive efficiencies and productivity gains. It's when you look at the pricing though in how MSPs, because you said like this per user You're looking at some people price based on desktops, some people price based on users, servers, and endpoints. I do believe that there's going to be a different approach in just overall pricing of services that are going to be specific around, the outcome, or maybe even the consumption, perhaps even the consumption of the AI. Maybe it's going to be more elastic, similar to cloud-based technologies where it can go up and down.
I think there's the other aspect of this too is that the MSPs are not just providing a technology; they're actually building technology, customized based on what the needs of that particular end user or particular vertical actually do need. And I'm seeing a lot of that as well, which then comes into a per agent type scenario where you're paying for usage of that actual tool. But the opportunity to be creative and innovative and actually start building stuff is probably more relevant today than it ever has been. And I don't know if you guys have started building things customized things for your end users, but the ability and capability of doing that these days is more than ever. And I think we're just scratching the surface. I think it's going to come down to completely customized per person, per user type thing. I mean, we have now, and you hear Microsoft talk about like AI identities where, John is not in the office, but if I need John or want John's opinion on something, you can ask John's AI persona how he would typically respond to something like this. So you see like these AI pieces like that. If I'm going to see John, how should I communicate with him? What is the best way to do that? And you got AI giving advice on how best to approach you with something. I need to ask for a raise, John. What's the best way to do that? And and the opposite as far as actual AI thinking like an individual employee as well. So not just a persona of an individual, but creating alternate people, in essence, that you can interact with and work with better than chatbots.
Yeah, I think there's a tremendous opportunity on, building micro apps or solving business problems. I met with a client yesterday, and we were just talking about some of the things and challenges that they're facing. A lot of the mundane work, repetitive work that they're putting in, and seeing how we can actually utilize and implement some type of AI technology, whether it's through an app or an agent. Their eyes, I mean, they're like, this is possible. We can actually do that. So the education and learning and, understanding what the capabilities are of the technology, I think it's a huge opportunity for our businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. I was in Glasgow, Scotland, a couple of weeks ago, and sat down with an MSP, a fairly new MSP actually. They only joined the market probably in 2020, and one of his friends and family accounts, which is just two guys that kind of move cars around the UK. Like somebody dropped a vehicle off, in a different city, but they need that car, a rental agency needs that car somewhere else. They're going to move that car over. I mean, that's the business that they run. They had an idea of like, how do we automate this? How do we geo-track this stuff? Just really kind of like get better and more efficient at ways of doing this. And what do? They call their MSP going, we have this idea. We have no idea how to do it. At which point he helped them build this AI, and now he's that they've been doing it now for about a year now, and they not only have built efficiencies within their business to the point where they need less bodies, but they can outsource a lot of things like drivers and stuff. But this technology or this application that they've built, they're now selling to other organizations that do what they do. They're making more money than they ever have before, without having to invest in human capital, and it's all because the MSP was there to help them build a vision of what they've got.
And these are transformational services.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, we're not talking about just keeping things up and running. I mean, these are transformational changes for these businesses.
Yeah.
That's tremendous opportunity.
Yeah. So the key is we have to make sure they call the MSP for that, right? That's the key.
They can't figure it out on their own.
I mean, why, get somebody else to do that for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as we wrap up for today, do you have anything that you'd want to, give the audience, any, last minute advice from, MSP or even business? I mean, you've obviously have so much experience across the board of, both on the channel side, the MSP side, the platform side. Anything you'd like to leave the audience with?
I think there's a couple different things. I'm incredibly bullish on where AI is going. There's a lot of people that are terrified. And, people are talking about job loss, and you hear human displacement stories all the time. I think back and I think about the Industrial Revolution. I kind of use that as an example, where machines started replacing the jobs that humans were doing. You're on an assembly line stamping a piece of whatever, and then a machine comes in and does this. And there's actually in the UK, there was a law that was instituted back in the 1800s that if you destroyed a machine, because that's what people were doing, they were destroying the machines because the machines were replacing the jobs that they were doing, it was punishable by death.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. I don't think we're necessarily going to see that. At least let's hope that we don't. But, I think this is where, we are going to evolve. We have to evolve. And the people that are going to win are the ones that are thinking about it and open-minded to it and continually researching and educating themselves. It is going to impact work. There's no doubt about it. But these people will find other things to do, as similar to the Industrial Revolution. They, instead of working on the assembly line, they figured out how to work with the machines that are on the assembly line, fix them, monitor them, manage them, those kinds of things, or find other jobs that, humans are necessary. I think that this whole fear of it, I understand it. But I think that being open-minded towards it is going to be necessary in order for us to evolve and just embrace it and bring it along. And worst case, if AI does become our overlords, at least be nice to it, so that at the end of the day, it still likes you and will help you.
So how do people get in touch with you?
Oh, LinkedIn, Facebook, I'm all over that. Or email. Rob Rae at pax8.com.
Next event is when?
John, I'm out every single week. Yeah. So I've got 2 events next week, and one in Phoenix, one in Tampa for some vendors. Obviously, Beyond is coming up in June, working heavily towards that. That's going to be in Salt Lake City that's our global kind of flagship show. And then we have our European event is going to be in Copenhagen this year.
Okay.
Are you sending Gus?
He should be there, right?
Good. Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, so we'll be doing that.
He's going to listen to this, and he's going to hold me to it.
You're welcome, Gus.
You guys planned this today, huh?
I get a chance to see him once a year at our European event. So
Yeah, well, fantastic. Thank you so much for being here today, Rob. I really appreciate it. To the audience, and be sure to subscribe. Be sure to check out our next episode, and we'll see you soon. Thank you. Awesome.
Thanks,
man.